What's up, guys? We're here today at Waybacks for our showcase weekly game number 15. Um, Today we're talking about a pretty important game in a lot of ways, and it's a lot of fun. I didn't really like it too much when I was younger, but the older I got, I really started enjoying it. But this is Mr. Do by Universal. I'm sure a lot of the crowd out here that are of a certain age, somewhere around my age or older, y'all seen Mr. Do all over the place when you were a kid. And that's for a very good reason, right? So Mr. Do, it was made by a guy named Kazutashi Odeya. And Mr. Kazutashi, I'm not even really sure how to say it, but anyway, he worked for Universal, which was kind of eventually became part of SNK, and Tato eventually, got it. But so his first game that he came out with was trying to capitalize on the success that Pac-Man Fever had gripped the arcade community, gaming community. Everybody loved Pac-Man. Everybody had Pac-Man Fever. And so his first game borrowed a lot of those elements. It was called Ladybug. Now, a lot of y'all might not be familiar with Ladybug, but it's basically you're a ladybug, right? You're a round ladybug in a maze, kind of like around Pac-Man in a maze, and you're collecting, dots on the map, little stars or whatever, just like Pac-Man collected dots. One big difference is on the maze, the walls kind of were like levers, and you roll over it and it flipped this way, and you roll back, it flipped that way, so you can block the paths a lot, and it was very successful. And so his boss wanted him to do a follow-up game. And well, what did they do? The first success was copying Pac-Man. So hey, second success, let's copy Dig Dug. And the result, of course, is Mr. Do. And Mr. Do is pretty fun. It was the first game to be sold as a kit, and so that's why they were everywhere. And there really wasn't like a defined dedicated artwork set. And they did do some dedicated cabinets, like they had a dedicated cabaret, which was a smaller version of an arcade. It was really cool. But most of them, to the tune of like 30,000, were sold as kits. And what is a kit? So Mr. Do introduced this concept, the Universal company. And what you would do is say you had, Donkey Kong or something, and it wasn't making as many quarters as it used to. Instead of buying an entirely new cabinet for a few $1,000s, you can turn around and for a few $100s buy the Mr. Do kit from Universal. And what that would do, it'd give you some side art, it'd give you some control panel art, it would give you a marquee to put in the cabinet that said Mr. Do instead of Donkey Kong, and the boards and wire and harness, whatever you needed. You can get a kit to convert the cabinet you already had to a Mr. Do. And that kind of started the craze, right? Like the problem that we run into a lot here is when we get a cabinet, 85% of the time, probably, it is not the right game in the right cabinet. And that's because at some point over its life, somebody decided that game, it either broke or it wasn't making as much as they used to, and they would throw another game in it. And that's how it continued its life until we wound up getting it. And what we like to do here, of course, is kind of preserve the history of arcades. And so we will get, like, our Ninja Turtles is a good example. We used to joke with our buddies in the community that every game is a golden tee, right? So our Ninja Turtles had a golden tee in it. And so we had to rip all that out, rebuild the control panel, get new artwork, new joysticks, all that, to turn it back into a Ninja Turtles cabinet. And that's what Universal kind of marketed, right? That was their thing. And they did have some dedicated cabinets, but they primarily made their money from selling kit games. And Mr. Do was phenomenally popular. It was a very big hit. It was in the top 10 of 1982 when it came out in Japan. It was a big hit here in America. And Mr. Do, like I said, they copied Dig Dug in some ways. So Dig Dug, you dig through the maze. You are running from the monsters. You can kill the monsters. You clear the monsters out. Go to the next board. Mr. Do is similar, but it separated itself just enough, right? So instead of having a pump to blow up the monsters, you have a bouncy ball, and you can throw it, hit a monster, and it'll reanimate in your hand. The more you use it, the longer it takes to reanimate. If it doesn't hit a monster and it hits like an apple or something, then you actually have to go get your ball. But you also dig through the maze. And there's apples and cherries, right? You got to collect the cherries. You can use the apples to either block the monsters, or if you're good enough, you can, position the monsters under the apple, have the apple fall and crush them, just like the rocks on Mr. Do, or rocks on Dig Dug. You can see why they can get confusing. But unlike Mr. Dig Dug, where you have to kill all the monsters to clear the board, Mr. Do, there's actually 4 different ways you can clear the board. So the first, kill all the monsters. The second, which is typically what most people go for, is you collect all the cherries. If you collect all, they come in groups of 8, right? They're spread throughout the map. If you can get all 8 cherries in a group without stopping or without missing one, you get extra points. Another way is at the top of the screen, there is the word extra. If you get to, I think it's rows of 5,000 points or something, a monster will come down called an alpha monster for the alphabet, for letters. And he would have a letter on him. And if you kill him, then you collect the letter. And if the letters spell extra, and if you get all the monsters to spell extra, all the letters, you can clear the level. And then the fourth way is the rarest, hardest way. Is sometimes when you drop an apple and it explodes, you can actually go, it'll, like a diamond will appear. And if you can get the diamond in time, you will skip the level. And so it was very different as far as that goes. But it's a really unique game. It's colorful. Your main characters and the final versions that we wound up seeing is a clown. Originally, he was a snowman in Japan, and then they changed that. But it's a fun game. It's colorful. It's catchy. You got so many different ways that you can finish a level. It's got little cutscenes after every third level, or if you get like spell extra, you get a little cutscene for that. It's really cool, really unique for the time. Like I say, a very popular game. It spawned a bunch of sequels. It had what was number 2, Mr. Do's Castle, which they totally changed the game format. You're no longer digging. You're in a castle climbing ladders. The third game was Mr. Do's Wild Ride, and so now you're not in a castle with a hammer. You're on a roller coaster with ladders. And then, like later in the 90s, they pretty much went back to basics with Neo Mr. Do, which was licensed to come out on the Neo Geo arcade systems, and updated graphics, back to digging, collecting. Uh, but all in all, it's a really fun, unique uh, knockoff. I guess you might as well say, call a spade a spade. It's a knockoff, but it was done creatively enough to where it kind of became its own thing. And it's really cool. And we have a nice example of a Mr. Do here at Waybacks. So let's hit to the game floor and give it a shot. All right, guys. So Mr. Do is, of course, a classic. So we got to head down to our classic road. That was one of its inspirations, Pac-Man. Borrowed a lot of elements from that. And of course, its main inspiration Right there is Big Doug. So let's go give old Mr. D. Where is he? And there's our Mr. D. You can see it's very similar to Big Doug. But this cabinet came out really nice. Really proud of this one. Let's set up the POV camera and give Mr. D some runs. It's pretty simple layout control wise. You got your ambidextrous shoot button, which in this case is throw the ball button. And you got your 8-way joystick. Instructions there will show you how to play the game and what all points you get. But yeah, really fun game, so let's check it out. Alright guys, it's been a minute since I played some Mr. Do. Let's see if I can still do alright on here. So you want to get your groups of cherries, kill your monsters, or crush them with the apples. Bonus points for getting more. And I'm screwed up. Oh, look at that. Anyway, when your monsters finish materializing, then their little portal will turn into some sort of food. You collect that. And it'll change the level to red. And it'll also freeze the creeps. The main monsters are creeps. Man, I'm really screwing up pretty good here. Game over. That was horrible. Anyway, there's a lot going on. You can check so many different ways to clear the level. So let's try that one more time. Let's get the cake and freeze them. So the alpha monsters can eat the apples. Oh no! Forgot the letter alpha monsters will turn into an apple as well. So I just got crushed. Alright, got the cherries, so we cleared the level 1 at least. I'm not gonna mess around this time. Oh, too slow. I could have got him. So I think the easiest way is just to get the cherries. And the creeps can dig, as you can see there, from time to time. It was a really fun game, though. I know it was a knockoff of Dig Dug, but honestly, I think I like it a little more. It's a little harder. It was second place for the day. Can't drive too bad. $165.50. Not my best. Not terrible. Anyway, guys, be sure to check out Mr. Do when you come over to Wayback. I hope to see y'all here. Until next time.
Well, I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?